What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the 31 Days of Horror. I'm your host, Mood616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Yes, 31 Days of Horror Volume 7, Day 25, coming at you live. And we got a special one here today from Synapse Films, a film that finally has made its way from VHS onto Blu-ray, completely skipped DVD. It was one of those ones that was just lost on VHS for years and years, and people were wanting a better edition of this film. I still myself own my VHS. I haven't watched this movie in years and years, and I gotta say, it's never looked better, because what you get with Synapse Films is usually very, very good quality, lots of features and stuff, and yeah, they do a good job here. 1987's The Kindred, yes, directed by Jeffrey Obrow and Stephen Carpenter. They actually worked on The Dorm That Dripped Blood together and The Power. So they did 3 films together, which is pretty cool. And then Stephen Carpenter actually went on to do Soul Survivors in 2001 with Elijah Dushku. And that was like all he directed in his career. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, Matthew Mungle actually does the special makeup effects in this film. He worked on pretty much, The Dorm That Dripped Blood, The Power, The Kindred. I think he did on Just Before Dawn also, but he also worked on Dream Warriors, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, which the same year The Kindred came out. So you kind of know what you're getting yourself into if you look into his history of effects and stuff. And, he worked on a bunch of horror films and then, like in the 80s, and then just kind of went off and did his own thing. But also starring in this movie, Rod Steiger, the classic actor Rod Steiger, which I love Rod Steiger so much. And yeah, he appeared in the Amityville Horror. He was also Pa in American Gothic. He's not really known for doing a lot of horror films, but when he should have done more. He was such a classic actor, and he was so good. But anyways, The Kindred from 1987, finally available on Blu-ray. Get into the synopsis of this one. Basically, this one follows the main character, John. He's a geneticist. His mother is also a geneticist too. So basically, one day he gets the word that his mother has woken up from her coma. She's had an accident. She had a heart attack, fell into a coma. And so he goes to the hospital to meet her. And she tells him that, basically on her deathbed, that he needs to go to her house to destroy all of her Anthony papers and all of her experiments and stuff, because she's done with those experiments. It didn't go right, and she needs him to go and basically destroy everything. So, and as he's leaving the hospital, she blurts out that he has a brother, and he's like, "What the fuck are you talking about? I don't have a brother." So he gathers up a team of his friends and stuff like that, other, hospital workers and stuff like that. They head to the house where everything there doesn't seem right. Weird things are happening and stuff like that. And so they're trying to locate these Anthony papers and these experiments and stuff like that. And yeah, shit kind of goes crazy. So that's basically the setup to the film. Now, my thoughts on the movie. It is still a really decent movie. I haven't watched it in years, but I gotta say, man, it is a little bit slow moving. For the first hour of the movie, once the team gets to this house and stuff like that, they're just kind of going through the motions. They're really trying to find these Anthony papers. There's a little bit of dramas and things that are happening. There's a few things that are happening. There's obviously something that's weird downstairs, like a dog gets killed, and some people start to get kind of picked off. And that's one thing about this movie too. Like, there's potential to have such a huge body count in it where it doesn't really deliver on a body count, because there's like 7 or 8, maybe 9 characters in this film, like main characters, and there's really only maybe 3 or 4 kills total in the film, which is kind of a downer a little bit. But what we're here for is basically the creature. It's 1987. It's full practical effects. The creature looks fantastic. I know the guy that designed it, Michael McCracken, designed this creature, and it's fantastic looking. You can kind of see it in the background, I think, a little bit. Maybe my hand's in the way. It kind of does look like that. It's pretty cool. So, like, the core of the narrative, man, his mother's a geneticist, and she's and John is kind of against doing, making hybrids. And what a hybrid is basically taking human DNA and mixing it with animal DNA and creating a hybrid type thing. And she's essentially done this and named this creature her, she calls it her son, Anthony, and stuff like that. So yeah, that's kind of what this is. It's like this creature thing. It's kind of like, almost like playing God in a sense, if you believe in that. But But I really like these kind of mad scientist films. Like, she seems like she's kind of mad, but not really. She's trying to further human evolution and stuff. She's trying to do the right thing. It just didn't go good. But that's where we bring in Rod Steiger's character. He's like the evil scientist in this movie. And we get a little bit of him at the beginning, and he's definitely up to no good. And there's a twist with one of the characters that ends up at the house in this film, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, I wish we had got more Rod Steiger in this film, because he's awesome. He's so good. As the evil scientist and shit, especially in the end of the film. Like, everything he says is just so on point and just so well delivered. He's such a great actor, such a good dramatic and awesome actor. But yeah, man, there's actually a point in the film where this dude actually says to Rod Steiger that he's like, "You got crazy eyes." And I always thought in my mind that he had crazy eyes. I don't know if I just remembered this from this film, watching this like 20-something years ago, but I always thought the Rod Steiger had crazy fucking eyes. And the guy actually mentions the film. I'm like, no shit, he totally does. I wish he had played a bad guy in more movies, because he fits that role. I recently watched him in Wolf Lake from 1980 for the 1980 show, and he's fantastic. He's batshit in that movie. So, yeah, man. So this one's a little bit slow moving. We have things happening, and once we get to the third act, that's when the real meat and potatoes of the film happens. We get a lot of the creature, and it kind of goes crazy and stuff like that. But I think that some of the writing in this movie is a little bit off. The script isn't perfect. It's really, really not perfect, because there's actually a moment in the film where you're questioning John's ability to do his job, to basically find these Anthony papers and find out what's going on in this house. Because he doesn't want to go in the basement. He's just like, oh, there's nothing in the basement. Now, if you knew your mother was doing experiments and had a lab set up, wouldn't you think to look in the basement of all places in a house? He never goes down there. One of the characters in this film actually mentions to another character, I don't want to give anything away, like, I don't know why he didn't go in the basement and check this shit out. Like, I found this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. It just seems so odd, because as a viewer, you're like, wouldn't that be one of the first places you looked? Like, you went there to find something to destroy it. You need to search the whole house. And like right at the beginning of the film, they realize that there is something in the basement. So it's kind of messy writing. The script is kind of funny at times, but all in all, it's a really good film. I mean, I shouldn't say it's a decent, good, solid film. I just wish the body count was a little bit higher. Like, we do get a lot of the effects and stuff like that, but I wish the body count was a little bit higher. There's a really cool transformation scene in this film where somebody gets transformed basically into like a fish, like a gilled fish or something like that. It's kind of interesting what happens. Pretty cool stuff. But yeah, the best part of the film basically is the third act. It goes a little bit crazy, and there's some comic relief by one of the characters with his little cigarette invention and shit, which is kind of funny. But all in all, man, it's a decent film. I still really enjoy it. Glad Synapse put this out. The PQ on the film looks fantastic. You would expect nothing less from Synapse Films. They do a great job with the features on here too. So it's 4K remaster of the film. We got, and the audio in this is fantastic too. It's got a 5.1 English stereo surround remix, which is fantastic, man. It actually does sound really good. I was very impressed with it. It's got an audio commentary here with the directors, Jeffrey Obrow and Stephen Carpenter, along with journalist Steve Barton. It's got a making of the Kindred, a documentary which is 52 minutes, which I highly recommend watching. It's really cool. It gets into the effects and things like that. It's pretty cool. Then we got a compilation, creature effects with Michael McCracken, which is 18 minutes long, trailers, things like that. And so chock full of special features and shit. I highly recommend this. Really cool. There's no reversible artwork, which is okay because I like this classic artwork that they got going on here. If I had to rate this one, I'm going to come in at a 7 out of 10. I think it's a solid film. I think it's not mind-blowing. Always been a fan of it though, but you're here for the creature effects. You really are. So, but I highly recommend it. And I just wish Rod Steiger was in it more. Like, he really comes through in the end of the film. It's really fantastic. So, but The Kindred from 1987. And that's going to do it here for day 25 on the 31 Days of Horror, man. So we are getting down. We're on the home stretch here. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Oh, also, actually, this edition is coming out today, October 25th. So you can go and pick this up in stores, wherever you purchase your films. Amazon, most likely. Most of the people don't have stores in their areas anymore. The Kindred. Good stuff. That's going to do it here for day 25. I'll see you guys tomorrow on day 26. And as usual,